Woke activists keep racking up the losses day after day in 2024. The most recent is the Genshin Impact boycotters have made zero impact to Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse as their revenue for Genshin Impact increased by over 8% between July and August. July being the month when the boycott was launched. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask if you please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. And as I said, Genshin Impact's revenue increased by over 8% between July and August. Before we get to the specific numbers, let's kind of provide some context on what is going on with this boycott if you are not familiar with it. So, as I said, the boycott of Genshin Impact and its developer Hoyoverse was launched back in July with a petition titled Stop Cultural Appropriation and Whitewashing in MiHoYo Games. MiHoYo was the name of Hoyoverse before they rebranded to Hoyoverse. The petition itself says this: we call on MiHoYo to stop cultural appropriation and whitewashing in their games and to commit to respectful and accurate representation of all cultures. MiHoYo, a leading game development company, has repeatedly taken inspiration from indigenous cultures without proper representation and respect. In particular, the many characters from Sumeru and Natlan in Genshin Impact and from Pinakoni and Honkai Star Rail are all clearly white or only lightly tanned at best. So they're clearly not all white if they're lightly tanned. So can't even get their point across there. Contradiction. Nevertheless, they go on to say, with the exception of some enemy NPCs, which has sparked concerns of racism among players and indigenous communities. Some concerns. Cultural appropriation and whitewashing perpetuate harmful stereotypes and diminish the rich cultural heritage of indigenous communities. These practices not only misrepresent cultures, but also contribute to ongoing marginalization and disrespect. So they're basically claiming that how Genshin Impact depicts its fictional characters leads to real world marginalization and disrespect. Utterly ridiculous. It then has a list. They issue a list of demands. MiHoYo needs to engage with indigenous cultural consultants, revise existing content to ensure accurate representation, commit to creating diverse and inclusive characters. It's basically a checklist of everything that woke ideologues, woke activists want in a game. And interestingly enough, the petition has acquired 109,000 signatures, but it doesn't look like any of these people actually play the game or have changed their behavior in any way, given the fact that the revenues continue to go up. But before we get to that again, we have this here. There is an account on X called HYV Boycott. They kind of explain more about the boycott. And it says, I think it's safe to say that we have all had enough of the erasure of our cultures and identities. Today, I introduce you all to Boycott Hoyoverse. We will be an account sharing how you can boycott. Spread the word. Anything helps. I didn't include it in this article, but I've talked about it in previous articles, previous videos, etc. That they are still encouraging people to play the game. They just don't want people to spend any money in the game. The count also added this, though. There has been a distinct lack of darker skin tones represented in the game. Characters from these cultures are actively being heavily referenced, but are being whitewashed. This is especially noticeable and ever present in not only Sumeru and Natlan, but also in other nations. These practices not only misrepresent said cultures, but also contribute to the ongoing marginalization and disrespect. This is perpetuating colorism further in the media, causing even more harm than good to communities and groups of individuals who are a part of them. Zero evidence of any harm being caused based on the character design in Genshin Impact. We saw similar complaints with Stellar Blade, where they were saying the character design of Eve was literally causing like real world violence against women. It's utterly ridiculous. Does not make any sense whatsoever. So here are the numbers. This is from July. The revenue increased almost 10% across its three major titles in July. So we already knew when the boycott launched, it was an absolute failure. Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and the newly released Endless Zone Zero. Across the three games, the company grossed $177.4 million. In comparison, Hoyoverse grossed $163 million in June, from just Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, because Zenless Zone Zero didn't launch till July. That is an 8.8% increase in revenue from month to month. So nearly 10% increase when the boycott launched. Zero impact this boycott had. After that, we had the HYV boycott account saying that they are just getting started. The boycott isn't going anywhere until we achieve our goals. We will keep escalating until hoyoverse stop whitewashing and provide authentic representation in their games. And they had a couple hashtags there. And then there was this other account here, Harbinger Girls, saying, remember to keep boycotting and talking about the petition. Representation matters. Boycott hoyoverse. Don't forget to sign the petition if you haven't yet. And then it links to the petition there. Again, I don't think that their escalation tactics have worked, as we have Gacha Revenue reporting that Genshin Impact grossed a total of $40.3 million for the month of August, up 8.04% compared to July, where the game grossed $37.3 million. And again, this is kind of a downtime for Genshin Impact as well, because it's kind of a build-up to Natlan, which launched at the very end of August. So I expect revenues here in September to be even higher, because they just launched the new Natlan expansion, where you're going to get more people coming back to the game. People are going to be spending their money on the new characters that they are really, really interested in. So I expect that those revenues are going to go up even higher in September, given the fact that they just launched that new expansion or had that new massive update. While Genshin Impact's revenues increased, hoyoverse did see their monthly revenue between all three games decline down to $111.1 million for the month. However, it's very likely that September will see a big increase, as Genshin Impact has released this new Natlan update, which just kind of talked about. Nevertheless, revenue still appears to have increased year over year, as Gacha Revenue reported that Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail grossed a combined total of $81 million in August 2023. That means the company's revenue increased over 37% year over year. So I will say, when I went back to look at those August 2023 numbers on Gacha Revenue, it only included global numbers for Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, whereas the more recent revenues do include Chinese revenue. So that number might have been a little bit higher in August 2023, but I don't know if they were including the Chinese revenue in the global revenue there. But regardless, still pretty good increase there. Even if you add maybe another 30 million to that 2023 number, if they did bring in another 30 million from China between the two games, could be even more, right? Still probably in the same ballpark as last year. So I don't think the boycott is having any effect whatsoever, especially not on Genshin Impact. We could see that the revenues actually increased month over month, over 8% between July and August when this boycott was going on. And then even if you want to go back to last year, we're seeing almost a 37% increase in revenue between its various games here. So this boycott is an absolute failure. It is another woke failure. It shows that these people have no purchasing power. They don't actually probably play the games. They clearly aren't spending money on the games. And we see this time and time again, especially over the past year. How many losses has wokeness taken in the last year? I mean, Concord, obviously a massive failure. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, another massive failure. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, Kinzera, Tales of Zao. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it's probably not going to stop, because these game developers seemingly want to continue to push this stuff, and they're going to pay the price. I think Mortal Kombat 1 might face some problems here when it releases its new DLC. I think it's in October. I think Star Wars Outlaws sales were very soft. I think Assassin's Creed Shadows sales are going to follow that as well. We saw a report that in the UK, Star Wars Outlaws sales were 55% lower than Star Wars Jedi Survivor. That does not sound good. You look at the trophy list, it's only 3 times the amount of players as Concord. That is not good. Twitch streaming way down compared to the hit like Black Myth Wukong. So woke activism in video games is being rejected by gamers. They are not interested in it. This Genshin Impact boycott and the Genshin Impact revenue is just another piece of evidence of that. But let me know what you guys make of the Genshin Impact boycotters having absolutely zero effect on the game. Revenue actually increasing 8% while they are supposedly actively boycotting. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.